What has been your life lesson so far?
Know who you are, not what you want. The most successful version of you is the best version of you, not the best version of someone else. You pretending to be something you're not is massive. Whatever you're doing, it needs to be authentic.
Don't focus on what you want to do, focus on who you are.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Will Marwick. I'm the CEO of IFX Payments, the global fintech company employing 200 people, and this is my Duvet flip.
What was the secret ingredients that made you get the opportunities?
I think I always try to push myself into the forefront of everyone's mind. Can I come to this meeting? Can I do that bit of work?
How can I help? What can I do? I want to learn more.
For me, that whole idea of getting better, what courses can I do outside of work, whether that's sort of full degrees or just sort of ad hoc things or just attaching yourself to people. You learn either through books or through people, right? That's it.
What do you think is wrong when it comes to money here in the UK?
On a personal level, I was always taught not to talk about money. It's just not what you do. You create a relationship with money as a child, and that then resonates throughout your entire life. You should be able to ask for help. Debt, credit cards, keeping on top of those things. But if you're open and you can talk about these things, not bury your head in the sand, then you can solve a lot of problems.
It's like the birthday card. They open the birthday card and the money falls out. They make out they can't see the money.
Yeah.
What is your top 3 tips for a young individual to pitch their idea?
Good question. I think
my final question is your duvet flip. What keeps you out of bed in the morning to flip the duvet?
Look, I think
So Will, welcome to my duvet flip.
Thanks for having me.
You all dosed up on coffee now?
Enough, yeah. I need a third cup.
Yeah, we can get you a third cup in the break.
4th, please.
Absolutely. I want to start here because we always start the show here and we go right back to memory lane. First job, first proper job that paid you a bit of money. If you were looking at young Will now, what would you be saying to him about that job and that experience? If you could just tap him on the back and say, this is what you should do.
That you are going to learn from this and that you are learning from this. My first job was working as a barrister's assistant out in Ilford in Essex. So I was really struggling to get pupillage. I just qualified as a barrister and thought I really wanted to be standing up in court and advocating for human rights and putting bad guys away and all that sort of stuff. And the only thing I could get into was this barrister's assistant role in immigration law. Started out pretty easy, filling out forms and helping support people with their various sort of applications for a right to remain and all that sort of stuff. But the more you got into it, the harder it started to become in terms of the emotional side of it. And I think, with immigration law, actually what's really happening is families might be being broken up, people being sent out of the country, got bail hearings, all that sort of stuff. And I think I only did it for 3 months, but I found it really tough to take. And sort of learning about myself in that process around what I could tolerate, what I couldn't on a sort of personal level, I think was that. And I think I sort of knocked it on the head after about 3 or 4 months and thought, it's not for me.
And was it because it wasn't for you, because it was the role, or was it because of the emotional side?
Well, the role was a pathway to hopefully getting another one. So sort of going in as an assistant to try and get pupillage and go on to be a barrister. But yeah, I think at that point I started to sort of dealing with people's lives on a day. It became really, it was real. And I definitely learned that I'm one of these people who takes everything home with him. And I find it very hard to leave things, at work. Become very emotionally invested in people I work with, and you just knew at that point it was just gonna tear me down, basically, I think. So I got to a point where I just thought, look, this is gonna be a killer for me and I need to learn more about myself before I go out and try and do something different.
How does one be passionate, engaged, but also have the emotional awareness just to pause? You say you take things out, you took things home with you. How can you compose yourself when you're so passionate about something or you really want to see a result? How do you compose yourself in the professional workplace?
It's hard. I think you can be passionate about anything, whether it's about the people that you work with, whether it's the business and its products and you buy into that, or whether it's just that one bit of work that you're working on. Be passionate about it all. Composing yourself, I think, is a different beast. Look, some people are naturally very good at just sort of, it might be 5:30, right, that's it. Don't leave that in the office and I'll pick it back up tomorrow. And that's fine, that's great, and I think that's a skill. But I think if you're able to try and separate the two in a way that doesn't sap your energy, I think you can maybe take it away in a really positive influence. A lot of people obviously like to work late and pursue it and just sort of be relentless in their pursuit of their passions. But I think trying to create those separations is key. Whether or not there's a tool you can lean on, or I think it's impossible. I think you've got to work it out for yourself. And I think having children for me has helped.
Gives you no choice but
to, because you've got 100 distractions at home. But prior to that, it has been tricky. Often my wife will see me sort of start thinking in one, and she's like, "Oh, come on, back in the room, please." And you're like, "Okay, well, it's work," and I'm on it. But it's hard. It is hard, and I don't think there's a specific tool to use. But I think you've got to work out who you are and what's right for you, and then I think you can then start to think about the things in your life that you can potentially engage with outside of work, so that you can not take everything home. So
well, you're sitting here in my London home right now. I've taken the podcast home.
Well, that's it.
But I like what you're saying. Basically, find out where you are in the journey. Yeah. Work out the type of person you are. If you have got the skill set to stop at 5:30 and then pick it up tomorrow, absolutely brilliant. Well done, you. Yeah. If you haven't, find the distraction or that out of work hobby, motivation, and find something that makes you kind of thrive outside of work as well.
Yeah.
But at times, it's also could be good to take things home now.
Yeah.
But just finding that balance, right?
I think it's finding the balance. I think it's, like I say, it's easier said than done. But I do think that if you're able to, you talk about it being a distraction. I think, finding the joy in your life could be your job and your career, and it should be part of it, for sure. But if it's all of it, then maybe you're running you've got a startup going, and you'll know as well as anyone, it can encapsulate your life, right? And you think, wow, I've got to do this. It doesn't stop. And so eventually you've got to accept the fact that it might be a 24/7 job for you, and that it does engulf your personal life. But just how you deal with that on a day-to-day basis with the other things that fulfill your life, like family, your friends, but other passions that you might have, or sport or travel or cooking, whatever it is. But I think enough to take you away and give you that break, I think is really important.
And you talked a little bit about December came and then you were like, okay, I've done it 3-4 months. It's not for me. Did you quit without I think quittings can be good as well. I think if you feel like it's not for you, move forward. Did you leave and resign without another job? Did you plan it?
No. Just basically had a conversation with the barrister I was working with and just said, look, it's like, she was already a bit concerned around sort of like, how much work she had to be able to offer me, how much progression and excitement and stuff there was. So it's quite an easy chat towards the end of it to just say, look, I think we're sort of mutual agreement to sort of part ways. But no, there was no other job set up, and I didn't really have a plan at that point. It was, the goal was try and rack up as much experience in the legal profession that I could at the time before the next round of applications opened for a pupillage, which is the year's training course you've got to go on within the chambers before you get your practicing certificate. So it was about, right, what contracts can I now get? What law firms can I go and work for? Big ones, small ones, go and work at chambers and get, they do sort of mini pupilages for like a week or two. So get a couple of them and just try and build.
How do you get those? Like,
just go through a application process with the chambers. So they're really, really. I mean, the selection process to get pupillage is very rigorous and very tough. And the number of applicants versus the number of places across London is very, very small. But they're all very, in my experience, very open to giving you those mini pupillage opportunities, and they'll often try and find weeks where you can come in and just shadow someone who's going into, whether or not they're just sort of operating in chambers or they're going to court or whatever it is, and you can start to see it and take notes and support them. So did that for a while, and then I got what I'd call my first proper job when I didn't get pupillage, and got a job at a company called Salamanca Group, which was, I suppose, a real sliding doors moment for me.
And why was it a sliding doors moment for you?
Well, I'm originally from Newcastle, and I had got to the final round of pupillage process at the chambers up in Newcastle. And
do you know there's a posh school up there?
There is, I'm with you. And I got to the final round, and I think it was like me and this one other guy, and I was waiting to hear back, and I got a phone call from a recruiter and said, look, there's this company in Mayfair, do you want to, it's a 2-week contract, do you want to take it? And I thought, well, I'm about to get pupillage, come on, am I really going, I might go traveling afterwards, and I sort of had this naivety of like, this is a slam dunk. And I thought, oh, I don't know, let me get back to you. And I spoke to my dad, and he said, look, I've Googled the company. You're an idiot if you go and take this. There's some like really amazing people who work there. Lord David Treisman was there, he was like chairman of the FA. And there was a gentleman there called Ed Butler, who's brigadier, very high up in the army. There was some really amazing people there. He said, well, you're a moron if you don't take this. And I thought, okay, yeah, no, you're absolutely right, I've got to. And I got there, and it was just packed full of incredible people. And after a week of me being there, I got my pupillage rejection letter through the post, and I was like, okay, that's a good thing I took this. And my boss at the time pulled me into a room and said, look, really glad personally that you didn't get it, because I want to offer you a job. I was like, oh my God, right, okay, amazing. And that was then, I suppose, the kickstart of my real career, which was working within the legal and operations team at Salamanca Group, working with everyone from legal and compliance backgrounds through to operations and everything else. Interesting fact about me is I qualified as a barrister in 2013, and I'm pretty sure I'm the only barrister running a fintech in the UK.
What was the secret ingredients that made you get the opportunities?
I think it was probably a culmination of things. I think the business went through various restructures. There were a few management buyouts of various departments, and those were sold. There was some investments that had some debt restructuring that had to be done. And eventually, people went with management buyouts, and people went on to pursue other opportunities. And I think it got to a point where
you was the only one.
I was the only one. It wasn't quite the only one, more or less. But it was. I think I always tried to push myself into the forefront of everyone's mind. And when someone left, I really tried to show the management team at the time that I could do it, and that, can I come to this meeting? Can I do that bit of work? And really try and push. Look, sometimes the team will say, look, it's confidential, you can't come into this meeting. But really try to just be the person who was, like, oh, can I get involved now?
What can I do to help?
Can I come into? And look, I think you kind of get into that world where if you're part of the meetings enough, and you start getting the invites to come along naturally in the meetings, you're not asking anymore. And if there's a bit of work to be done off the back of it, no one wants to do it. Oh, Will's here, you'll do it. And you get into that rhythm of being the dependable person that can get stuff done. So that was definitely the sort of the strategy for a while in terms of that career growth and that progression, and really trying to just put myself at the front of everyone's mind.
So it was you being curious, wanting to be, how can I help? What can I do? I want to learn more.
I think curiosity was definitely part of it, but what you mentioned there about sort of improvement and sort of self-betterment, I think was the ultimate driver. I think, I sort of got the bug for learning and getting better maybe a bit too late, definitely after school, which my parents will definitely tell you is true. But so for me, that whole idea of getting better and just continuous improvement has become sort of the real, it's really come to the forefront of my mind in my career now. So it's been everything from what courses can I do outside of work, whether that's sort of full degrees or just sort of ad hoc things, or just attaching yourself to people. Because you learn either through books or through people, right? That's it. Like it's one or the other. You learn from like those experiences. Like I would often come out of meetings, not just at Salamanca, but at IFX, and a number of times thinking, almost fizzing about the decision that's been made. I just don't agree with it. I don't think it's the right strategy move or whatever it is. But you've got to eventually take away and say, look, the people who are making these decisions have got certain experiences, certain knowledge.
How do you then become a team player and get on board and don't let it grind you? Because you see it time and time again. Oh, yeah. We ask young people, why'd you leave? My ideas weren't listened to.
That's the key. So I think you've got to have the confidence in yourself that you've, first of all, presented your ideas or your argument correctly, right? And if you've walked away from a conversation or that meeting thinking, I didn't quite get my point across, or, I might have muddled through my words a little bit, then there's a good chance they might have misunderstood what you're saying, and therefore you need to go back and talk to them again. However, it ultimately, I think, just comes down to trust, right? If you present your argument, the person in the room who's the decision maker, do you trust them? Do you think they're a good leader within the business, whether that's the CFO, the C-suite, or even departmental directors or whatever it is? Do you trust that person to make a decision? Do you think that they've got the business's interests at heart? And do you trust that person is trying to get to the destination that we agree on? And if so, there's a number of different things that they are probably considering when deciding on what that route is. And you've presented your argument for your direction, but they might have experienced things similar in the past that haven't worked. They've been burnt by, certain things. They're more familiar with certain technologies or whatever it might be that's driving the other decision. You ultimately then have to say, look, yes, they've listened to me. They've taken on everything I've said, but they're still going to go the other way. It ultimately comes down to, do you trust that person? And if you don't, you need to sort of move on, because that will grind you down eventually. That is energy sapping to the highest order. Can you get on board with what they want to say and what they want to do? But yes, if you feel listened to. And I think you nailed it on the head there when it sounds to me that young people aren't being heard by their sort of seniors and line managers and everyone else. And it's just been sort of dictated to, like, sort of unilaterally, this is what we're doing. And I think that's where people find it frustrating.
And that's where the mismatch comes into place. Yeah. But both parties have good intentions, right? Yeah. I always say it as they're both listening to Taylor Swift, but one's listening on the iPhone and one's listening on a cassette.
Yeah,
kind of thing. It's just how do you bring things together, right?
Yeah.
And what is your advice? 3 things, top 3 tips for a young individual or someone who's just become a manager to pitch their idea. What's the 3 things that you would recommend they have in that presentation?
Good question. I think that clear roadmap is fundamental. Really setting out the logic behind why you want to do something. It's not we do this and then we do this and then we do this. It's the linkage between the beats. It's we do this because of this, we do this because of that, and therefore this will happen. That's an argument that people can get behind, rather than just that. And you take people on that journey of your decision making is imperative. So you go down this route of just unilaterally telling people this is what they've got to do. you lose the meaning of why something has to happen that way. And therefore, if people don't understand the why, they can't really get behind the what and the how.
I love that. So start with a roadmap, but within that roadmap, don't just say we're going from here, we want to get from here to here. Break it down on, if we do this first step, this is what will happen.
Yep.
This is what will happen if we don't.
Yeah.
And then break that down. But I like that, start the presentation with a roadmap. Where are you now? Where are you trying to get? And then in the middle, explain what will happen in that process.
Yeah, and why you then need to achieve that. Why that outcome is important for the business.
And that kind of links into a job interview as well, right? What is the job description? How do you understand the job description that's put in front of you? And what do you believe your roadmap is by them hiring you? Yeah. And obviously you won't know the internal stuff and what the big strategy is, but you'll know by hiring me, this is what I can do in terms of skills, and then breaking those skills down.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I think it's understanding that where that job fits into the organization and understanding why the company is hiring that role, right? You know, what is the company trying to achieve with this job? Are you, because you're an investment, right? The business has decided that, right, we're going to spend X amount of money to bring this person in. And they're either going to raise more money than they're spending, or they're going to save us more money than we're paying them, or it's a regulatory requirement or whatever it is, right? So start to think about, like, I need to give the company value in this. This is what if you break employment down to its very core principle, it's what is the company's investment, what's its requirement out. The things around, culture and values and stuff is the bit that sort of says, how do I fit in with this organization? Am I going to be happy here? Are they going to work in the way that I want to work? Do they carry the same values that I do as a person that's going to make this a really good working relationship? But understanding exactly what the company needs to get and matching your skills against that is enormous. And it goes back to that point about really understanding who you are and what's important to you, because in understanding what type of person you are and I don't mean, that you're a bubbly outgoing person. I mean, are you a logical decision maker? Are you rational? Do you think logically? Or are you more of a, sort of gut feel guy? Or do you like to operate at 10,000 feet? Or do you really like to get into the weeds? And, how do you like to work? And really understanding what the job is. Are you going to be happy? Are you going to get the most out of that job? And are you going to be able to deliver for your company to be seen as a high performer as well? Because there's another thing around just sort of coming in and doing a job and just, yep, I can do it, doing it steady. And there's a lot of value in that. But what do you want to get out of it? Do you want to be a sort of rock star who delivers the job really, really well? Or do you want to be that superstar who's on that career path of promotion? You've got to be able to match those up and understand where you're going to excel.
What I'm hearing is really interesting because, yet again, and this is not just young people, this is everyone, they go into a job interview and they go, what can you do for me?
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. And I know it works. And yes, the employer does have a duty to make sure you've got the right values, the right culture, the leadership can inspire you and support you on your next phase. But go back home or if you get an interview, print off the job description, put a bit of paper next to it and start matching up where you fit in onto that actual job. Because if you can get the job right, then you can then spend the first 20 minutes in the interview explaining where you could excel in this job description and also be very authentic where you don't.
Yeah.
And then you can spend the rest of the time finding out what they're like as an organization, to see if that's an organization you want to be a part of.
Massively. I think that's where you can break it down then onto the job spec and start thinking about, right, have I ever done this before? If so, have I done it well, or actually did I do it quite poorly, and what did I learn out of that? And really go through each of those points to make sure that, A, you can do the job and you'll be good at it, because that's another thing. B, is it really interesting for you? And is it going to make you, is it going to excite you waking up every day to go, well, actually, this is an interesting bit of work? And then C, ultimately, are you even going to be happy doing this? Because eventually, if you go through the job spec, you go, actually, you know what? there's more negatives on there than actually I sort of realised.
I call them cheers and chores.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, every job, no matter who you are, CEO or the Prime Minister, or definitely the Prime Minister, there's a lot of cheers and chores. And you just have to make sure that the cheers, you get paid for the chores, it's your job to create the cheers. Like you did, go into that CFO saying, "Can I join the meeting?" Yeah, I'll take the tasks that no one wants to do, because that'll give me 1% more to learn for next time. So just go in there, look at the job description, understand that the chores are there because that's what the job requires, but it's your job to fit into the culture, speak to the right people and make the cheers happen, right?
Interesting fact about IFX, the business was founded on a farm in Buckinghamshire and shared an office with stables. So literally you would come into the office alongside horses to go and sit at your desk.
So tell me a little bit about IFX Payments and how it works. How did you get involved? Because you didn't start as the CEO, did you?
No, so it started in 2005. Group of the founders were ex-FX sort of brokers, and they decided to spin out and start their own thing. So it was traditionally, with a name like IFX, a foreign exchange brokerage service. So I joined the business in 2018. I joined as general counsel. The business was pivoting into less of a brokerage and more into a fintech. It built its own platform to help businesses move money overseas, quickly, cheaply, securely. And I was brought in to help get the license to do that, create the structure, the governance, the controls, and put all of these things in place to make sure that we were compliant with our regulations and making sure we were putting customers at the center of everything we were doing. And we launched the platform in 2020. What we really do now is we help, in the simplest terms, we help businesses move money around the world in a quick, simple, and secure fashion. So what that means is we allow them to open an account with us called a virtual IBAN account, but it works very similar to a bank account, but it's not a bank account. My legal team will make it really clear it's not. But it operates like that, so it allows businesses to collect money from overseas into one account. They don't have to have lots of different currency accounts. It's 38 currencies into one account, and then we can support you on things like hedging as well. So if you have dollars to pay in the future, we can secure your rate now, so that if the dollar rate moves, I don't know, maybe we have a big sort of political event and the dollar rate worsens, you don't want to be out of pocket. You don't want your £30,000 invoice to suddenly actually cost you £42,000. So you want to make sure you lock in that rate now. So we can help you do things like that as well.
How does it make money? How do you make money? How does that work? And how many businesses do you have kind of using the service?
So we have about 3,000 businesses working with us at the moment who use the platform. We build a pricing solution that fits the business model of our customers. So we look to sit down with them, understand if there is a genuine need for the platform. We're not trying to ram products down people's throats and, oh, you need this. No, it's just because otherwise they won't use it. You've got to give them something they'll use. And our whole pricing model is built on usage. So we need to put forward a platform that they need. And we can make money in a number of different ways, but it's about fitting our pricing solution for the customer and making sure that they're at the center of it. So we, in our sales process, will look to understand how many payments they're making, what their currencies they're using are, and go through that iterative process of saying, look, this is what a pricing schedule for you would look like. And they're the different ways we can look to utilize that.
Nice, I like that a lot. And it seems like you've got a very consultative approach rather than one shot fits all.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work, especially when you're dealing with people's money, right?
Yeah, look, I think the reality is that if you're sending someone else's money, there is a human impact to that transaction, right? They can't leave a shop with their goods that they want to buy if that money hasn't gone through. A plane might not leave a runway, a ship might not be able to port, you might have, certain, events might not take place, you haven't made the payments. So you have to be in tune with what is really happening. And so you have to make sure that whatever you're giving them works for them, because it genuinely impacts people's lives.
And why is it a good industry to kind of get involved with and build your career? Because I just find it so fascinating.
Yeah, look, it's a good question. So I think you can break it down into sort of two components for me is the FX side of the business, and then there's the payment side. So the FX is live market conditions. So news comes out, data comes out, exactly the same, money makes the world go round, but everything that happens in the world will start to have impact on currency markets. So being able to work with your customers to look after their best interests is really interesting, and being reactive to everything that gets going. If there is the Fed announce a change in the interest rates, or there is a war breaks out, or there's an oil tanker those have genuine impacts, and that's quite exciting for anyone who likes their day-to-day being a bit more sort of like on your toes and responsive to things, and then trying to help your customers. The other side of it is the payments piece, which is fascinating because the payments rails and networks is historically quite an archaic system. It can be quite clunky. The payment methods that are still used today can be slow, can be quite cumbersome. So you've got the whole sort of blockchain world who are trying to completely radicalize that and really change the way that we engage with money. But also you've got real-time payment providers as well. So real-time payment networks such as you have something called FPS here in the UK, you have SEPA in Europe, and you have FedNow in the US, and they're all over the world. But they're means of getting money to other people in real time. So how do you put those pieces together? How do you fit the jigsaw to create a solution where you give people access to all of those different solutions, as opposed to, I have to do things the old way, And that's where I think putting those two sort of quite interesting puzzle pieces together creates a really fascinating company to come to every day. You have the people on top, the technology, the development, and it comes together as a really sort of really nice place to work.
And it wouldn't all work without the people, right?
Oh, massive. No way. I mean, the vision's one thing, but people's understanding of the regulations, people understanding of how tech's developed, how products come to life is enormous. And then how your team come together to get that to market and do it in a way which fits the values of the company, and that does take that consultative approach to understand really what our customers' needs are, and to say, look, we are a partner, we're not a provider, we're not that, we're not just someone who's a cost line on your P&L. We're someone who's here to help you, give you that advantage in the market, so that you don't have to worry about your FX, you don't have to worry about how your money moves. It's complicated, and so we step in to simplify that for you, and you're away.
When it comes to payments and financial, I'm sitting here imposter syndrome, and and I don't have a clue. And a lot of people shy away talking about money, especially here in the UK. We hide the pay slip. And no one, I believe, young people, some do because they get support, but a lot of young people, even myself, at an early age, I didn't have any financial well-being, what it meant to save, what is a bank account. What do you think is wrong when it comes to money here in the UK that needs to be fixing? And by the way, we have a little disclaimer on this episode. So anyone who's tuning in, go and take your own money advice and look at an expert. This is just an opinion of two individuals over a cup of coffee.
That's
so
it.
We're covering it.
We're covering
it.
Yeah, exactly. Good man. Get the disclaimer on. Look, I think in a business context, I think people are quite open about talking about money. You'll talk about top line, bottom line, what your costs are. But I think on a personal level, it's people. I think it's traditional, maybe British culture. I was always taught not to talk about money and all that sort of stuff. It's just not what you do. But I think when you move into a business world, you've got to transition into that and be able to talk about it. I stand up every month and talk about how we've performed over the last month, what our revenue's been, what our cost base been, what the flows are that we've done, and really keep people updated with the company's performance and be open about those numbers.
That.
But to go back to your sort of original question, was in the banking system at the moment, I think banks are often seen as, and larger financial institutions as well, are seen as just providers. And we really want to reposition ourselves as a partner within the firm and be go back to that old corporate banking approach of, you know who your banking partner is, you know who your account manager is, you can pick up the phone at any time and you can say, this is what I need, this is what I need. I don't think we have a financial services sector where people should be the best at everything. I think it sort of doesn't pay now to be a generalist. I think you need to be a specialist, but rather than be a competitor, with lots of others as a generalist, to be a specialist but a collaborator within the space. So
that's my career out the window. I thought I was a dancer, singer and a footballer.
Well, straight on. Podcaster then.
Yeah, there you go.
But the idea being is that we'll be your FX and payment specialists, but we will fit in with the wider ecosystem of the best, accounting software providers, and we'll support you with the best. And maybe you need to go and raise some debt capital or some, maybe you want to go and raise some equity. Right, look, that's not our bag, but we can help facilitate that and help you. And because a lot of small businesses, they just don't have access to it. What am I meant to do? Do I just Google some names and pick up the phone and,
who do you go to?
Who do you go to? Yeah, it's.
And I think that's one of the things, and this is why I wanted to talk to you about it, because I say it time and time again. In the UK, money's a dirty word. I always just see that when someone says to me, and I sit with a big banking CEO, and they go, "Tell me what you think of youth, and what does you think of youth and money?" And I always just say it's like the birthday card. They open the birthday card, and the money falls out. They make out they can't see the money. It lands in their lap, and they read it, and they go, "Yeah," but deep down they're looking at me. 10 as they got.
Yeah. You're counting it. You got me right.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. But it's like hush. And what you just said is, I think it's fantastic. Don't be a generalist, be a specialist. There needs to be some transparency around what money means and how people are performing. And also there needs to be an ecosystem where people can access what they need to access. Whether you're a business owner, whether you're an entrepreneur, or whether you're a young woman just joining a job, wondering out what does it mean to have a pension.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I think if you're able to, if you as a provider are able to say, look, I'm not here to say, oh, don't work with them because we're trying to keep it all to ourselves. It should be, look, this is what we're really good at, and this is where we'll help you, and we'll work with all the other, the great pension providers, the great payroll providers, the great accountancy software. We'll integrate with all of them, and we'll be part of your ecosystem. And so it's not a one-stop shop now. It's like, you don't, oh, right, well, I need an overdraft, and oh, well, let's wrap it up with my FX, and oh, by the way, I need to go and read. So I'm just going to wrap it up all into one provider. I think creating that ecosystem of speciality is really important.
And I totally agree. And in my time, I've seen there's some really good, a bit like yourself, really good, smart, honest people that want to help. Like you've come and done this today. You could have been sitting on Football Manager.
Could have been.
Well, you were in the break. But like the industry has got smart people, and it's about how changing the narrative. Because I always growing up, when you grow up, I grew up in a council estate, no money, and I was always told, and there's a little joke going around in Essex that change the B for a W when you talk about banker, but that's like actually money makes the world go round, and there is people in the industry that are actually trying to do good, right?
Oh yeah, massively. I mean, you see that Barclays got a big campaign at the moment. You see it on the TV around sort of how you create a relationship with money as a child, and that then resonates throughout your entire life. And I think that's really true. Your upbringing, your parents' awareness of money, how they feel about it, and look, there's some really good things that can be passed down to you from parents, but I think you should be able to ask for help. You shouldn't feel like you can't just put your hand up and say, look, I don't understand my tax slip. My pay slip, sorry, on my tax codes, and what does this mean to me? Is this right? And what do I need to do with this? You shouldn't feel like you can't ask those questions. And I think if you're able to, any business is able to support, whether they're young people or people who've been around for a while. I think, you might have the benefit of, look, I'm new in the working world. What does this mean? You don't feel worried about asking questions, but maybe if you're, in your 30s, 40s, 50s, however long you've been working, you might think, oh God, they probably think I should know this by now. I don't think people really think like that. Just say, look, bit confused about what this means. And budgeting, people often have a problem with that. Debt, credit cards, keeping on top of those things. But if you're open and you can talk about these things, not bury your head in the sand, then you can solve a lot of problems. Interesting fact about the industry is that over the last year, 140,000 bank accounts have been shut for SMEs as a result of ring fencing, which is where IFX can help.
As a CEO in the financial services industry, it's financial services you'd call it, right?
Yeah.
What is your one money power? We call it money powers, and we believe everyone should have money powers. Yet again, there is a disclaimer on this. What is your money tip to people?
Money tip, I think investing in yourself is the best thing you can do with your money. Look, you get into the needs, you need to address your needs first, right? You know, your house, your food, all that sort of stuff. But start to think about how you invest in you. And that can take a number of different shapes and forms. And that can be investing in education and putting yourself through courses and getting yourself better to help progress your career. Or it can be just hard, cold investment of, look, putting this aside for building up an investment portfolio to invest in a fund or a property or something that's going to start generating new income. The best thing you can do is to create financial freedom for yourself in later life is to have passive income coming through. So I think anything you can do to help drive that, and get quite strict with yourself in terms of, look, this is how much I've got coming through. This is the proportion that I'm going to put aside for that. And actually that might mean, you know, one less takeaway a month. It might mean, you know, one less streaming app or whatever it might be. And even if it's just small, to be investing in yourself and not just all the wants and the, we're going to go out for dinner tonight, and we're going to get takeaway, we're going to go to this football match. Buy the next Football Manager, whatever it is.
whatever it is. We've only got time for 2 more questions.
Sure.
So my final question: what has been your life lesson so far in your professional career? Whether in a form of a soundbite, whether it's someone who along the way has said something that you didn't understand but now you do, or something that you've just read in a book, or something that's really sticks with you. On a dark day, you pull this out and you go,
I wouldn't say there's like a soundbite for the darkest day, but what I would say is know who you are, not what you want, and that is the best thing you can do to start your career, to reset your career, or just remember at any point, because the most successful version of you is the best version of you, not the best version of someone else. And so you pretending to be something you're not is massive. You know, whatever you're doing, it needs to be authentic. People can't see through that you're not being someone you're not. And you know, how can you be, you know, successful in a way that is not just, you know, being a chameleon and just sort of trying to do everything and anything, because that will never make you happy, right? So where do you fit in? What sort of person are you? Then you can start to think about what you want and what your passions are and what your interests are, because it'll all start to filter in and lead you down a path which you should ultimately find happiness out of, which is the main thing.
Absolutely, and I think you just summed that really nicely. Don't focus on what you want to do. Focus on who you are.
Yeah,
and that can take time, right?
Yeah,
they say life begins at 40, and that's when people normally figure out what they care about and stuff.
Yeah,
and all sorts.
Hugely, and I think if you're able to work that out, it doesn't stop you then from being something that you might want to be, but it just gives you a bit of a guiding light as to what type of version of that role you want to be, so that you join a company that fits that and that you have people around you who support that, and that's what they want from that role. And so then everyone's happy, right? You know, people aren't trying to fit square pegs into round holes. It's just trying to, you know, make sure that we are bringing the right people together who are, you know, excelling in the right way.
And my final question is your duvet flip. What keeps you out of bed in the morning to flip the duvet, both personally, but for the future of your organisation and industry? Yeah,
well, look, personally, it's probably my 2 kids and their unhealthy Bluey obsession. So that's definitely my 5:30 wake up call. But look, I think the uncertainty of every day, I think, is something that excites me on a personal level. So the countless opportunities that every day has to offer, I think, is what gets me up, and going out to spend time with people and understanding how we can help progress people's careers and support them and help ultimately go drive the business forward. I think in terms of the business, I think, how we grow it in a way that cultivates the culture we've got is something that I'm really passionate about. I've got a very clear vision for where the business needs to go, the new products that we're going to be delivering and we're going to be releasing over the course of this year and into next, the new markets we're going to be entering, and how we can start supporting smaller businesses and larger sort of complex corporates as well, how we can start supporting them. But I think what really sort of gets me excited are the people in the business and thinking about how we can support their career journeys and sort of supporting their happiness with IFX. And I think we, as far as a business, I think we're doing that quite well at the moment. We've got people stay with the business a really, really long time relative to the industry. But as you grow, you start to establish new offices and take the business forward. How do you keep that? How do you keep that sort of ticking along and making sure that you sort of compound the effects of that and you don't lose sight of your culture and your values? So that's something that really excites me on a daily basis.
You know what? I've really enjoyed this. So I just want to say thank you for spending your time, giving your wisdom. I've seen a lot of your career is being curious, asking how you can get involved, a few being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, a bit of that. Can't deny that.
Everything's happening around you, but you've stayed steady and you've stayed firm into what you're doing. But it looks like you also bring people with you. And that's quite rare.
Yeah.
You want to make sure, yes, you need to make a business decision. Yes, things have to go this way in certain things that you do. But it feels like you're building an environment of kindness with clarity, and I love that. So I just want to say thank you for sharing your advice. Thank you for coming. We could speak all day. And you know what? If we were playing in Football Manager, I would beat you.
Yeah, you probably would. You probably would.
I'd quickly cheat, but but I just want to say thank you. Thanks for giving me.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it. Appreciate it.